Welcome back, Otis.
Thank you.
We're soaring. That was terrific.
Thank you very much.
You know, a very wise man spoke in parables a long time ago, and the African folk tale is a beautiful, unique vehicle for expression of deep suffering.
Absolutely.
But the word was in you before you were born, I bet. Tell about that. The son of course, your
my father is also a pastor in Cleveland, Ohio at the Olivet Institutional Baptist Church. He's been there 31 years. He is a product of the Civil Rights Movement. Actually, I always say that Dr. King got my parents together because he married my parents and actually was trying to hook my father up with somebody at one point. And so they were good friends, and he worked very hard with SCLC and was a part of the Atlanta sit-in movement. And my parents met in the movement. And so literally the word was in them before it was in me.
So you know what passion and faith is, don't you, Otis?
Absolutely.
I mean, speak to that a little bit about how important that is to connect with people with our faith, to really have that passion behind what you're saying.
It seems that everything, I mean, in our world, in our context today, everybody can have passion. The jazz musician has passion. The DJ has passion. But when it comes to church, when we start talking about the Word, when we talk about the power of God working in people's lives, it all of a sudden seems that we have to move back into an enlightenment and rationalism, and we can act with no passion. But in the African-American tradition, passion has to be connected to your intellect. You can't have one without the other. Because when you, in the words of Charles Adams, one of my favorite preachers, he says, when you think, which is intellectual, you automatically thank, which is passionate. And so there has to be thinking and thanking connected.
You said everybody's passionate, but there are a lot of people who would say that you could ice skate down the aisles of most white churches in America. I mean, what's been your experience?
You know, what I have found is that in many of our churches, not only black, but also white, we've been beholden to the Enlightenment tradition. We lift up Hegel and Kant and other people, and we said, we must operate within this rationalistic idea, and we displace passion. But you know, you can't have Brahms, you can't have Chopin unless you have some type of passion. You can't have John Coltrane unless you have some type of passion. And great art and great human cultural production comes from a passion that is given by the imagination that comes through God.
Now let's talk about that with Trinity UCC right now, where you're at. A church of great passion, obviously.
Absolutely.
Tell us about the motto of the church. I found it fascinating when I read it on the website.
Unashamedly black, unapologetically Christian.
What does that mean?
Well, that means that we are completely committed to our culture and to Christ. That we do not separate to say that we are Christian over here and we are black over here. But God made us who we are, and we celebrate what God made us, and that being African Americans or Africans who have been displaced and who live in America.
At its beginning, Trinity United Church of Christ, which of course is the fastest growing church in the denomination, the United Church of Christ, had about 30 members a long time ago. Now there are 8,000 members.
8,000 members,
And so what do you do on Sundays in the middle of the week?
Everything. We have 7 different corporations that deal with community development, to education, to healthcare, to our credit union. All of these pieces working during the week to meet the needs of the community. We are a church that has the community as our heart. And we have a heart for the community. And so every single day, it is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation. I mean, if there's someone even in need at 3 a.m., there is a way to connect with the ministry. And that's one of the beautiful things, and especially through the vision of Dr. Jeremiah Wright, who is the senior pastor, when he came in 1972, that he wanted to have a church through the vision that was given to him by God that would be committed to the community.
Now, you are one on the short list, and near the top, I suspect probably at the top of the short list of the top 20 young men to watch in terms of the future of the African American.
Well, I have no idea who made the list. That's very nice of them to put me on the list.
I read that.
Well, what do you, I guess what you're saying.
You are, your leadership and vision are legion. Tell me a little bit about what your vision is for the future.
Well, part of my ministry has connected in several ways as a result of the influence of my parents, my mother and my father, is prophetic. I mean, when I say prophetic, out of the Kingian tradition of speaking truth to power, and also an intergenerational ministry, connecting with the hip-hop generation, connecting with the unchurched generation, those who have been disenfranchised from the faith community. And my work in Augusta, my work when I was a youth pastor in Denver, has always connected with those who were disconnected from the church. And there is a segment in our community that has been completely pushed aside by the faith community, because what we do is we demand that they change and operate like us, instead of operating and say, wait a minute, what do we need to do to connect with you? And I had an interesting experience. As a young man I was talking to, I said something about Amazing Grace. He looked at me and he said, who's she? Meaning that he didn't understand the language of the church. And that was really a signal to me that the language we use, the way that we dress, the songs that we sing that connect with particular cultural memory does not connect to this generation. And so I like to use that we need a kind of iPod-esque mentality, meaning that an iPod is mobile, versus the old school way of having a 45 or a 78 or 8-track or something where you bring the records to the party. We bring the music wherever the people are. And so that's the kind of ministry that has to be developed. And
I want to ask you then, how specifically are you reaching out to the young people and connecting with them and seeing that growth of their faith with your ministry? Well,
one of the things that we have at Trinity, we have two fantastic people who are working in the area of youth ministry on staff, that being Reverend Rayma Wright, who is the wife of Dr. Jeremiah Wright, and Reverend Michael Jacobs. And there are several ministries under their particular purview. One is the Rites of Passage ministries for boys and for girls, which teaches young people how to be productive adults. I mean, how do you become a man? What does it mean to be a man when you are 10, 11, and 12, and you have all of these images that are pressing against you, and then connect you with someone who is Christ-centered and is also celebrates their own culture to pass down those values. And that's what we're really missing. Then one of the great things that we do is I love the Youth Week. Actually, that's my introduction into Trinity was through the youth revivals, where it completely flips the script and it becomes a completely hip-hop kind of service, where the kids are in control, where they're doing their own music, where they are creative. They're using poetry, they're using rap, they're using dance and everything to connect with their generation. Oh, absolutely. Always the drums. I mean, it's a fantastic program. Oh, he is. Oh, okay. All right.
So you're empowering them to express themselves in a truthful way about how they feel about their faith.
Absolutely.
In other words.
Because they will be the ones who will be able to connect with another generation. I like to use, I recently did a message called Theology of a Thug, talking about Paul. I say he's a thug. Reason being is because he was stoning people. That sounds thuggish to me. But Paul was an apostle to Gentiles. There were certain people who were within the Jewish community who would not be able to do that. But God has a great love for thugs, because thugs can reach other thugs. Children can reach other children. And so we have to recognize that it's not always going to be the ministers and those who are wearing the collars and the wonderful robes and the beautiful language, that it may be someone that maybe does not speak standard English that can break something down to someone in a different way, and they will connect to God in that way.
I must ask you, Otis, when Harold Washington won his stunning primary election in Chicago, he said on one of our programs, he could not have won without the church, the black church in Chicago. You have many significant people at Trinity United Church of Christ, including Barack Obama.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Got to talk about politics and the faith. What is your vision that guides you as you bring together justice issues, questions of reform, not only in Chicago, but nationally?
I think that the church, and specifically the pastor, is pastor as prophetic interpreter. And prophetic interpreter means that you stand as a prophetic witness. And this is the beauty of Dr. King. He could speak with democratic language, and it was undergirded by faith language at the same time. So he could speak and criticize the current administration, and at the same time also demand that that administration connect with people in the South. But he could also criticize people that were on the right, people on the left. He never put himself in a position where he was beholden to any particular party. He always stood above as a prophetic interpreter. And I think that that is the role of the church, that you should never be in the pocket of any politician. You should advise, but never be in the pocket. Because when you're in the pocket, then it takes away your prophetic power to criticize when someone's wrong.
And to stay authentic.
Yes.
You have to talk about your children.
Oh,
Elijah,
absolutely, yes.
I'd love to hear about that.
Elijah and
man.
Michaela, and of course your
Oh,
wonderful wife,
wow.
Monica.
Monica is now working at the Matson Public School System as an educational consultant. We have been married for 12 years. I met her September 17th in 1988 at 11:15 a.m. In Atlanta, Georgia. That is my baby. She's my best friend.
Happy.
It's easy to preach about heaven when you got an angel by your side. So I love my wife, and so I give her a major shout out.
Graduated from Spelman.
Spelman College. Spelman's a great school, you know, for all the Spelmanites out there. And we have 2 children. Elijah just started kindergarten, and he gets up every morning at about 5:45. Say, is it time? Is it time? So it's like, it's not yet. You got a few hours, brother. And then Michaela, who just never sleeps, but she wants to do everything that her brother does. She's 2, and she'll be 3 in December. And they are absolutely joys. I mean, it's amazing having children, because my parents now come and visit, and they smile. Because, and they smile because it's like, now you know what we went through. You know, you kept us up. You know, you were like, play this, do this. And it's really, really a joyous thing.
Your parents must be so proud of you.
Sure they are.
Well, you've met my father.
I know,
Yes.
I know. I haven't met your lovely mother, though.
You have
What
to
is her
meet
name?
Mom. Edwina.
Edwina.
Yes.
Edwina.
I want to ask you, Otis, before we have to go, what is your take on the interfaith movement? You've got a unique perspective. You are a Baptist minister,
I'm a Baptist
but you're
minister.
practicing now, or preaching in the UCC
in
church.
Congregational Church, in the
How do you
UCC
feel
church.
about what's happened? We're so happy on this program to have an ecumenical approach, interfaith approach.
Absolutely.
We've got about a minute left. What do you feel in your gut is happening out there on the landscape?
I think that there is a strong move. I'm a big fan of Cornel West and Michael Lerner. And Michael Lerner's written this great book called The Left Hand of God. And he's talking about that there is a spiritual crisis in America, and the differing traditions, whether you're talking denominations or whether you're talking about the Judeo-Christian tradition or even the Islamic tradition, that there are people that are attempting to bring meaning into the lives of people who are pretty much living market-driven lives. It's all about consumerism, and people are looking for meaning. You know, they're looking for something deeper than just, you know, buying their next car and buying some brand new clothes. And so I think the interfaith movement is bringing that, but it's also dealing with what I would call a very conservative movement that has been beholden to the political right in America, which is now saying that there's only one type of Christian, and if you don't operate and think the way I think, then therefore you're going to hell. And I have issue with that.
Well, we'd love to talk to you more about that, but thank you for being an inspiration of faith for us.
I appreciate it very much.
All right.